videos, we discussed all of the brides in the Haunted Mansion. The character has always been central to the ride's story, and highlighting her many incarnations only further solidifies that. However, I have a confession to make. Both times, I neglected to mention one character. I had my reasons, but a discussion of bride-adjacent characters seems incomplete without her. I am, of course, talking about the ride's mysterious Ghostess. The very last character guests see in the attraction, she still leaves an impression on all foolish mortals. So who is this mysterious hostess, and how does she further the ride's story? Well, lean back in your doom buggy as we venture into the spirit realm to learn together. The Ghostess's development is very tied to the bride characters. If you saw the first bride video, then you'll remember that a lot of concept art depicted a woman, dressed all in white, holding a bundle of flowers. While that influenced the bride's eventual design, it also branched off into another character, that being, of course, the Ghostess. Take a look at this piece of concept art. When you put it next to the eventual bride character, they aren't really that alike. But when you put it next to the Ghostess, there's a much clearer resemblance. I'll get to why I didn't include her soon, but it's clear that they do share a common origin. According to Mark Davis, she was inspired by a character from the 1965 film, The Loved One. The story centers on Robert Morse arranging a funeral for his recently deceased uncle, and the plot just goes off the rails from there. There are so many plot twists and subplots that just start and stop. They're mostly just excuses to tell jokes. The tagline was, "The motion picture with something to offend everyone," so yeah, it's that kind of movie. There were a couple of funny jokes, but it's not really anything to write home about. Anyway, there's a minor character that's a hostess at a funeral home. She isn't in much of the movie. She's in a couple scenes, briefly talks to the main character, and then isn't seen again. Still, you compare her features with the Ghostess's, and there is a resemblance, right down to the voice. Another little tidbit, the cemetery the film takes place in is called Whispering Glades. In Colin Campbell's artwork for the Song and Story record, the caretaker is standing in front of a sign with the word Glade on it. Campbell worked closely with Davis on the artwork, so maybe Davis told him to include that name. Or they both could have seen the film and Campbell incorporated it independently. Or it might be a coincidence. To think this obscure 60s comedy would inspire something as well loved as The Haunted Mansion. But that kinda gives away why I didn't include her in the bride video. She isn't really a bride. She's a hostess. A ghostess, if you will. That name is the closest to an official name that she has, given in a cut piece of the Ghost Host narration.
A charming ghostess will be on hand to take your application.
Operating material and the like only call her by vague descriptions like small figure or talking girl. She was portrayed by Imagineer and Disney legend Leota Toombs Thomas, the same woman who played Madame Leota. They loved her performance so much that they decided to use her again. And this time, we got to hear her real voice. This is how she got the semi-official name Little Leota, which has been used in some merchandise. But Ghostess is prettier, so that's what we'll be calling her for this video. Don't like it? Make your own. We encounter the Ghostess in the exit crypt, right after our encounter with the hitchhiking ghosts. At Disneyland, guests disembark from their doom buggies and head up a moving sidewalk. She stands on a ledge to the left, holding a small bouquet and dressed in white, urging guests to hurry back, making her the very last thing guests see before re-entering the park. In Florida and Tokyo, the scene plays out differently. After the hitchhiking ghosts, she's standing on a ledge above our doom buggies, still holding dead flowers, still dressed in white, and still urging us to hurry back, but we don't see her for very long. It's surprisingly easy to miss. After that, guests disembark from their doom buggies and head back into the park. My regular viewers will know how rare it is for me to prefer a Disneyland version of anything, but I will concede this. So, what is she? Why is she so small? Fan theories have ranged from a living doll to a fairy, but if you're going off of the ride alone, then you won't find many answers. She might not even be small. She could just be far away. Then again, this house has talking busts, changing portraits, and a guy who can decapitate himself, so a tiny woman isn't that out of the ordinary. As for why she's dressed the way she is, some have speculated that she's wearing a mourning dress. Yes, in some traditions, people wear white when they're in mourning, but I don't know if the people who worked on the mansion would have known that. She wasn't always dressed in white. In the early days of the mansion, she was in a translucent gown, but it didn't really gel with the projection, so they put her in white. White does make her look more ethereal and ghost-like, so it makes sense in that regard. But the true nature of her identity and appearance may forever remain a mystery. Phantom Manor is an entirely different story. In the original ride, there was a small figure dressed in white telling us to hurry back. However, she was dressed like a bride, so you would think that she's supposed to be Melanie. But her face and voice was that of Una Lind, who played the ride's incarnation of Madame Leota. Plus, she's small just like the Ghostess. She's in a wine cellar and she's not much bigger than the cobwebs. So was it supposed to be another version of the Ghostess, or was it supposed to be Melanie? Her dialogue doesn't give us any answers. Her French dialogue is much more somber, more in character for Melanie, but her English dialogue is what we expect from the Ghostess. Someone must have realized that this was causing confusion, because the figure was removed with the 2019 refurbishment. Though you can still hear the dialogue when you exit. Doesn't that sum up the refurb? Trying to clear up questions, but creating a bunch of new ones in the process. Anywho, outside of the ride itself, the Ghostess appeared at a dinner event in 2009 to commemorate the ride's 40th anniversary, marking her first appearance as a live character. She acted as kind of an omniscient narrator, telling the story of Constance and her husband George. She takes on some of Madame Leota's traits, talking in rhyme and even speaking her incantations. Which brings up further theories that we don't have time to analyze, so we're just gonna go ahead and move on. In other media, the Ghostess tends to get the short end of the stick. Her only appearance in any of the printed material is the Marvel comic. She only shows up at the very end to say her trademark lines. But other than that, she doesn't show up very much. Even if her most famous lines are spoken, they're given to other characters. It's given to Madame Leota in the movie, it's given to the ghost host in the story and song record. This might be a case of inductional composites. When you only have a set amount of time to develop your characters, sometimes it's smarter to make the most out of fewer characters. So you take traits from one character, and you put them into one of the ones you're gonna write. It just makes the writer's job easier, having to write only a few characters as opposed to a whole bunch of them. There's no doubt that the Ghostess has left an impact. If you ask anyone to quote something from the Haunted Mansion, they might recite her famous farewells. It's a wonder why other media haven't used her more often, but maybe that doesn't really matter. Other characters may have gotten to shine more, but they don't leave an impact where it matters, in the actual attraction. Not just in bidding us farewell, but encouraging us to return, so we can learn more about the mansion in future tours. Haunts of the Haunted Mansion will be going on a brief hiatus. We've been putting out episodes fairly consistently for the past year, and I think it's time for a little break. Don't expect any new episodes for the next couple of months. Thank you all for continuing to support the show and watching every new episode. The feedback has been amazing. I'm so glad all of you have been excited to learn about this, just as I've been excited to teach you guys. When the show comes back, it'll be better than it was before, with new things to learn and new characters to meet. That's not to say we're taking a break from Haunted Mansion stuff entirely. There's still plenty more to discuss there. So if you want to be completely up to date on new Haunted Mansion happenings, be sure to subscribe and tap the bell icon. But in the meantime, please sit back in your doom buggy and we will proceed in the next video. Hurry back.